Today I'll be making Middle Eastern rice. So this is done with either beef or minced, so entirely up to you. Beef or lamb, sorry, so minced. So all I've done is to the pan I've added a little bit of vegetable oil. I'm doing this for the onions. I don't want the onions to blacken, so I've added a tablespoon of butter to it. So I'll wait for it to completely melt. And it is on high heat, my pan. So all I want to do is cook off the onions, and then I'll add my mince to this. So this is good enough. So I've got one onion, one large brown onion. So I'll cook this off. And then I'll add the mince to it. After 5 minutes, you'll see that it's actually softened up slightly. And this is 5 minutes worth. Normally it does blacken by now, but this has just cooked it off and not blackened because I've added a tablespoon of the butter. You can leave out the butter and just put the vegetable oil. But one thing I failed to mention, that the traditional Lebanese rice doesn't have onion. I prefer this because it just makes everything taste a lot nicer. This will be incorporated in the dish, so you actually won't be able to see the onions, but it does give it a really nice nutty taste to it. But all it is, if you want to just leave it out and do the traditional way, it's just your preferred mince, lamb or beef, with a bit of oil, and you cook it off. So I've added 500 grams of the mince, and I'll cook it off until it's all fully cooked off and slightly darkened. So I'll leave this like this for a second. Prior to this, I actually did the nuts. If you've got nut allergies or you've got someone coming over that's got a nut allergy, you'd leave this part out, but I toasted them in a frying pan until it had a bit of color. So I've used the almond halves and the pine nuts. Entirely up to you which nuts you use. So I've used half. At this stage I've actually left it so it's actually cooked off the mince. At this stage is where I add the tablespoon of salt. You may need extra, but you don't add extra until you've added the liquid. And when you fill up the liquid and it starts to boil, that's when you taste it like all other cooking. I then also add a tablespoon as well of the Middle Eastern mixed spice, the 7 spice. So as you can see, it has fully cooked off. I'll leave it on here for another minute. And I'll wash my rice and add it in to add the water. Now that it's brown, after that minute, I will add the washed rice. I did empty up most of that water. It's a cup of basmati rice that I'm using. A lot of people use medium rice. There's no right or wrong. It's just your preference. I like this one because it doesn't go gluggy and works perfectly when you've got friends over. You really don't want to serve them gluggy rice. To this I'll mix. And what I'll do is I'll add, so to 1 cup of rice, you will put 3 cups of water. So this is for this type of rice that I'm using. So each rice is different. So my one is 1 cup to 3 water. And you cook it off until it's completely absorbed in the rice. Mix and add the lid. Turn down when it starts to boil and you start to see the rice on top. you can then start to add, start to lower the temperature to a medium heat instead of a high heat on the stove. So what I did was I opened up the lid after about 5 minutes and saw that it was boiling. So I then lowered the heat to medium. As you can tell when I'm turning it around, to try not to overwork it, but basmati actually holds its shape. As you can tell that it looks ready, so I did try a little bit, and I did keep the lid on it the whole time until it cooked off. There's a tiny bit of water. All I do is I turn off the heat and turn it off the heat. I'll do one last mix. And then I put the lid back on. As you can tell, the shape is still there. I put the lid on for about 5 to 10 minutes until the water's completely gone. It's been absorbed in the rice, and then it's ready to plate. To plate this up, it's been sitting for 5 minutes and majority of the water has gone. You don't really want it to be completely gone, but all you do is just add it to your dish. So you add all the mix, all the rice gets added. Doesn't matter how much mixed spice you put in. I know that there's people that add extra at this stage when it's being plated.